Well, for the next 30 minutes, Daniel Sunjata is our guest, and he's a prominent 9/11 truther. Very gentlemanly, intelligent, great soul, old soul, as they say. And that's the best way of describing him. And he came out to the demonstration when I got arrested a few years ago, right before 9/11, protesting the cover-up of the fact that was an inside job there at Fox Studios. And he is also in the New World Order film that came out on IFC. He was caught on tape there with us when I was being arrested. And, of course, he's the star of Rescue Me, a lot of other movies and TV shows. He had a lot of courage to go public and risk his whole Hollywood/TV career doing what he did, just like Charlie Sheen and others did. And then even to fight to even have the show cover the topic. And I think they did it in a pretty fair fashion. Obviously, it couldn't just be our side, for it to be mainstream TV. But I'm just so proud of what he's done, and he's a great asset to humanity and liberty. On top of that, it's great to have him on now. We set him up like a couple days ago before this horrible guy went in and shot this poor security guard, supposedly. It looks like a black op to me, at this Holocaust Memorial Museum. Perfect timing when we're trying to audit the Fed for that to happen. And now they're trying to demonize Ron Paul. They're trying to demonize 9/11 truthers, saying this guy was a hero to him with no proof. Glenn Beck just says that. So we'll talk about it all in the next 30 minutes. Daniel Sunjata, it's great to have you here with us.
Oh, as always, Alex, it's great to be with you. Thank you so much for having me, man.
Thanks for spending time. We got a few minutes before the break and a long segment coming up, but first off, tell me about Rescue Me. You really couldn't come on the air when that was all building up. You wanted to just, let that those programs air. It got a lot of international attention. You made some great points in the Rescue Me. We're going to play a clip of that coming up. But tell me about the process of getting that on the TV show and behind the scenes, and then what happened on air.
Well, the process was just, talking about it a lot on set. I think that eventually, although Peter, Dennis, FX, Sony, I don't think that any of them are signing on to the, to my perspective necessarily, but I think that they saw that there was some dramatic mileage that could be gotten out of it. I think that they saw the no-brainer that if there was a platform on mainstream television on which to address the subject, that 9/11 was the appropriate, or rather that Rescue Me was the appropriate venue, being that it's based on post 9/11 New York City firefighters. So, I was in the final analysis. I was very happy with the way that they treated the subject in general. I mean, it came out better than I thought, than I had hoped. I guess I had wished also that there had been a little bit more of a reaction, either positive or negative. It just kind of seemed like it aired, and not that much was said about it, other than the hit piece that came out on Fox and Friends with Greg Gutfield shooting his mouth off. But yeah, there just wasn't there wasn't as much of a reaction in general as I was kind of hoping that it would provoke. I was hoping it would stimulate some conversation or some controversy.
Oh, it did on the web. It did on talk radio across the country. The mainstream media was smart, though. They learned with Charlie Sheen and Rosie O'Donnell to keep their mouths shut because they try to make us look like kooks, but then it comes out that we're really the majority, as the polls show.
Absolutely true. Yes, absolutely true. Well, I mean, at least it aired. I don't think that it could only have been good in terms of, I'll tell you, I'm sorry I'm jumping around, but I'll tell you what my favorite scene was. It was really great to be able to do those monologues where I got to, list, let's say our side of the case. But my favorite 9/11 scene that they aired in Rescue Me was where Michael Lombardi's character, the probie, he and I are walking down the street, and he's just telling me where his knee-jerk emotional resistance to the idea kind of came from. He was saying, if you're telling me that, that the bad guys are here in our own government, it's just kind of like too much for me to process. He was basically giving a voice to the cognitive dissonance that's responsible for a lot of people just dismissing the possibility that 9/11 could have been an inside job without ever even looking at the evidence. And so I really appreciated that particular scene. It was fun to do.
Absolutely. Later, we'll play one of those clips here on air with Daniel Sunjata. Daniel, again, I'm not saying this because I'm trying to butter Daniel up. He really needs to be honored. Somebody who's got a great career, really breaking out, and he does something that they try to blackball you for. That is the just ultimate courage. They say psychologically it's easier to charge a machine gun nest to do something that is seen as socially unpopular. But it's only socially unpopular with the elite. The good old folks at New Silver Solution. And the website is supernaturalsilver.com. Supernaturalsilver.com. This is something that kills bacteria, viruses, you name it, well documented. They've got it down to a super small nano-sized particle, supernaturalsilver.com. Check them out at Infowars.com. We get too reliant on YouTube. That's why we have prisonplanet.tv, and it's all streamed at higher quality there, but that's just my videos. We have the video of Dennis Leary, some 9/11 truthers that heard Daniel and others talk about the upcoming episodes. They come up and ask him politely. He goes, how do you know that? Who are you? Who are you with? That has them thrown out. We can't play it. YouTube is down. Not my videos. YouTube itself has been having trouble the last few days, and it's completely down right now. That is the videos. But if they come up in the next 30 minutes, we'll play a clip of that, and we'll play some clips of Daniel Sunjata on the show Rescue Me. Daniel, I don't want to stir up stuff with you and Dennis Leary. You're a classy guy, and you're going back for another season with him. But, I'm glad that he was still part of the show, even though it had the 9/11 truth stuff in it. But I'm surprised watching this response from him, very aggressive, to nice people just asking questions at a book signing, that he was even part of something that brought up 9/11 truth.
Yeah, I don't know. Dennis gets approached by a lot of people, and I think that I'm sure he's well aware of the controversial nature of the subject matter, so to speak, that it was going to provoke probably anticipating that it would provoke an emotional response from both sides of the fence. And maybe he just was wary of being ambushed. He might not have known with cameras on you and somebody's asking you a question if he was being confronted or if he was just asking to, being tacitly asked for his opinion.
He might have thought it was TMZ or something.
You never know. You never know what went through his mind. Again, I can only give Dennis, credit, and Peter Tolan credit, and FX credit for allowing the subject matter on the show and for treating it with a relative amount of fairness. I don't think at the end of it that Franco, my character, was left wearing a dunce cap. I think that they just kind of, they showed all the different emotional responses from the guys in the house to Sheila, the character named Sheila, who expresses her, dissatisfaction with my opinion, claiming that Franco is turning her husband's death into a hobby. But in general, I think they just kind of let the audience decide for themselves, and that's laudable.
Well, it certainly is. For those that haven't seen the show Rescue Me, break down what was discussed in that episode.
Well, it was a subplot that stretched over about 5 episodes.
Yeah.
And the way it started was a French journalist comes to the firehouse, and she wants to interview the guys about their experiences on 9/11 and their feelings about the day. And so, in a series of vignettes, with her interviewing each of us individually. When she gets to my character, of course, I launch into this 2-minute monologue about how 9/11 was an inside job and the reasons why. And then over the course of subsequent episodes, you see the responses from different characters in the firehouse. Some of them are violent. I almost get into a physical confrontation with one character, Michael Lombardi's character, the probie, in the firehouse kitchen. And then we have kind of a reconciliation scene later on where he explains to me why he felt the way he felt. So, they just allowed a lot of different perspectives to be communicated. It would have been nice to have one character on the show be like, yeah, I agree with Franco. But, again, just the fact that they allowed me.
Yeah, let me say it's a distortion, but again, even allowing it on, though, and allowing one view is better than most, so I'm not trying to just attack here. But I've been to New York, and many of the firefighters know it's an inside job. They come up and thank us, shake our hands. In fact, I want to ask you about that. But then there's all the videos of firefighters going, it was like it was a foundry, lava flowing, things were melting. The police saying, get back, they're going to blow up Building 7. So can you speak to that? You live in New York, you know these people, you're around firefighters, you're the star of a show about firefighters. What percentage would you say of them will tell you, oh, yeah, Daniel, I agree with you?
Well, I don't know I could not hazard a guess at the percentage of the total population of the FDNY because I don't know them all. But I'll say out of the firefighters that I know, I'd say about 60% of them are leaning towards us, leaning towards our take on things, that it was an inside job, that something's fishy, that we need to have a new investigation. Maybe 20% of the remaining 40 are undecided, and then maybe 20% are violently opposed to the idea, but I think more from the perspective of just not being able to fathom the depth of that kind of betrayal. So it's, but in general, I know lots of firefighters that feel exactly the way you feel, that feel exactly the way I feel. So I don't really know what to say about that, but.
Well, that's when, talking to Bill Doyle 3 years ago, he said about half or more of the families believe it's an inside job, and then he does. He lost his son, Joey.
Mm-hmm.
I've since talked to some of those groups 3 years later. They say, oh, it's basically 80% of us now. And but the media keeps this distortion going. The families don't like 9/11 truth. The families are upset with us when conservatively more than half agree with us.
Right, right. I mean, you only have to look at it, at a couple documentaries or do a couple searches on YouTube when it's working, and you can see the dissatisfaction of the families who were attending the 9/11 Commission hearings. I mean, how many times were they interrupted by the victims' family members themselves, screaming and yelling in anger and frustration because their questions were not only not being answered, but were being completely